Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Cold War Preppers Tuesday night nonfiction post-apocalyptic book club. Diana 2, welcome. Hello, good to see you. As you can probably tell by my voice, I'm still not 100% recovered from the scourge of Asia from 2019, 2020. Came down positive, where I began. Let me see, I was tested on the Saturday, the 23rd of December. And hello, Holly, welcome. And started, and they gave me the Paxlovid as a medicine to take for that. And however, the test results came back on Sunday and at about 4 o'clock, and I couldn't get over to the pharmacy before they closed Christmas Eve. Of course, it was closed Christmas, so I didn't start taking the medicine until the Monday or Tuesday, a week ago today. Stuff, let me tell you, that stuff really tastes terrible. Yeah, let me see what I can do. See if I can clear that up, Holly. I don't know. Let me see if I can. Let me see. What can I do? That's not clearing it up at all, is it? Gosh, I'm sorry. Don't know. I don't know how to fix it. If I could, I wonder if I end the stream and start all over again. I'm afraid to do that. Gosh. Well, I think we'll just suffer through this haziness tonight. Don't know what's wrong with the camera. Let me see, stop cam. And then let's see if we can bring that back up. Nope, that didn't fix it either. Don't know what it is. Golly. It might be the lighting. I apologize for that. It's really stormy here tonight. So I apologize for that. But anyhow, I am doing better. We're getting, hello, Triple G, welcome. Listen to Grandma, welcome. So I apologize for the video quality tonight. I don't know what's going on. Can't seem to get it fixed. But anyhow, do want to get into this real quick. Tonight we're talking about Grid Down, Death of a Nation. Hello, Bouger Prepper, welcome. So wanted to just kind of get into the timeline. I meant to do this a week ago tonight, but this time last week, oh man, I was in bed sicker than all get out. As a matter of fact, I took off my jacket. I'm still got the chills, and a slight fever. So I was wearing a jacket and I took it off, so you can't see that. But anyhow, we'll see if we can't muddle through this. What I'm looking at now is we're talking about in the introduction to the book. It's a call to action for America. Then the very next page is the introduction. And so we're talking about the introduction here, and it gives us kind of a timeline of what's going to happen as far as an EMP or CME. Very, very appropriate that we talk about this tonight because there is a major CME that is approaching Earth, and it's anticipated it will be here late this evening through the 4th, and it could be a Carrington level event. So, it's good that we're talking about this tonight. There's all kinds of weird stuff going on. We had that major 7.7 earthquake in Japan. New York City had an earthquake. I mean, there's stuff that's going on, cosmic and Earth and everything else. It's just unbelievable. So let's go walk through this timeline because I think there's some things that you need to understand, that I need to understand, that's going to be very, very instrumental in our survivability during a SHTF situation, especially a CME or an EMP. So let me take this off and blow my nose. I'll tell you what, you definitely produce a lot of stuff with this disease. So, gosh, that cleared it up a little bit by getting in closer. Let me see if I can't. Nope, it's not clearing up. I'll have to check into that for before we do the next live. Okay, day 1, noon. High voltage transformers have blown out everywhere. Within minutes, all 54 commercially operating nuclear power plants across the nation have scrammed. That is, they've shut down, emergency shutdown. Millions of TVs, laptops, everything else. So if all of a sudden you lose power, check everything. Go outside, check and see if your neighbors are without power. Check your cell phone. Now, typically with a grid down situation, the cell phone towers do have solar battery backup, and they also have generators. So if it's a local power outage, chances are your cell phone is still working. If it's an EMP or CME, chances are your cell phones are not working. So that's going to be your number one clue, is do you have cell phone coverage? So, all of a sudden, all kinds of things are going to start happening. There's no traffic lights. There's going to be collisions because of that. There's going to be all kinds of strange things. No gas pumps working, ATMs don't work, and everything else. So one of the things that they say is to survive this first day, number one, make sure you have a little bit of cash. Yes, I'm on page, actually it's page V in the introduction is where I am. So we're going to do pages 5 and 6 of the introduction. I don't know what it is on the PDF, but so make sure you have cash. I don't like having any cash above a $20 bill. So we have 1s, 5s, 10s, and 20s for emergencies. That's going to serve you very well because if there's no electricity, cash registers won't be working. You won't be able to take any credit cards. ATMs won't be working. You won't be able to get anything out of that. Hello, Terry in Radar's World. Welcome. Theoxerus, welcome. So having a little bit of cash available to you is going to be critical. Right now, at the very beginning of the CME EMP event, I don't think precious metals are going to be any value to you. I also don't think barter items are going to have any significant value right at the very beginning at day 1. So what we also see are, at any time, there's probably about 1,200 flights above the U.S. And what we don't know is, will an EMP or CME affect the avionics of those aircraft? Will they be falling out of the sky? Will they be protected? We certainly are going to have a lot of congestion and danger at airports as these airplanes begin to their descent and attempt to land, especially without ILS, instrument landing systems. So, a lot of the beacons and stuff that tell them when to begin their descent, when they're online with the globes, the glide slope. There we go. The glide slope and everything else, and when to power down and all that kinds of stuff are not going to be available. So we can anticipate that there are going to be a lot of aviation accidents that are going to be happening as a result of a CME EMP on that very first day. So there's going to be a lot of, people are just going to be in a state of confusion. They don't know what's going on. If you have, if you are dependent upon any kind of electronic or electric life-saving equipment, that's going to be a major problem for you. For example, as a result of my MRSA pneumonia, I sleep with an oxygen tank, oxygen concentrator. And so I have the cannula and everything and go with 3 liters of oxygen per. And so I have to sleep with oxygen at night. I will have a very rough time if I don't have access to an oxygen concentrator. So, that's going to be a difficult thing. There are people with CPAPs, other machines, people who are in hospitals, depending upon whether or not the generators work and whether or not they're able to provide electricity, especially to ICUs and some of the other areas, that may prove very, very dangerous for the people in the hospitals. I consider, think of Rick in The Walking Dead, where he was in a hospital recovering from a gunshot wound. when everything happened. So, stay away from elder care facilities, hospitals, things like that. There's going to be an awful lot of sickness and death that's going on. As we move into days 2 and 3. Now then, so as we're taking a look at this, I want to kind of expand on this a little bit, and let's talk about what we need to be doing during this time frame. So day 1, stay away from any place that you might have people going there to try to get last minute stuff. I'm not sure how much confusion and everything else is going to be happening. Will people be heading towards the grocery stores, to the big box stores, to academies and Bass Pro Shops and stuff like that, looking for stuff? I don't know. We can theorize that they probably will, and there's going to be a run on those type of facilities. That would be very dangerous for you to be in those areas if you were. So one of the best things you might want to do is just kind of hunker down, just stay safe and prepared where you are at your home as soon as you understand what's going on. One of the things you might want to do is your freezer, as long as you don't open it, will keep food frozen probably for 2 to 3 days, especially if it's densely packed. And so what you want to do is any leftovers that are in your refrigerator, get rid of those first. And so we're going to start cooking things that are in the refrigerator right now. That's going to be our primary source of food. It's probably okay to go outside and grill or use a propane tank or something like that, because most of your neighbors will probably be doing the same thing. We won't have the pressure for gas inside the house. Of course, if you have electric utilities as far as stove and oven, that won't be available to you. So, you're probably going to use alternative forms of cooking, and that's going to be your grills and fire pits and things like that. Let me catch on the comments here. Fioxera says that he thinks that he had something as well. Mine's lasted probably about 2 weeks now. So, and one of the things we don't know, Pat, and this is up to speculation and conjecture and everything else, is will they work after a CMP or a CME or EMP? And we don't. I don't want to hazard the guess that. I'm saying that you are probably ahead of 99% of the population by having that, but make sure you have a way of protecting it as well, so that it doesn't get destroyed during a CME or EMP. So I imagine someone would barter to get cigarettes day 1. Could be. I don't know. I think they'll probably be begging more so than bartering. I don't think it's going to take a couple of days for it to settle in. And most people don't know what. I'm going to venture to say that probably 85% of the population has no idea what a CME or an EMP is, and won't know the effects of it. So number one, we have to understand that only about 18% of the population smokes. So that's 1 in 5. And so they're going to be looking for OPs, what we call other people's smokes. OPs were always the best in the Army. But they'll be looking for other people's, and so chances of you running into somebody who is desperate for cigarettes is probably going to be less than common, because it's only 1 out of every 5, 1 out of every 6 actually smokes in the U.S. anymore. I quit smoking when I was in ICU with MRSA pneumonia, so that was 2015. So I haven't smoked now in 8 years. But I still have a pack of cigarettes in the glove compartment of the pickup. And they were in my car, and when it got totaled with the hailstorm, and then I just transferred that over. And it's just a reminder that's sticking in the glove box of my car. So let me see. Where are we? Absolutely correct, Bouger Prepper. And that's one of the things I constantly harp on, is everything has different needs and everything has different timelines. And so we're kind of specific here. We're talking about CME, EMP. And so that's the timeline we're working on here, is There are some things that probably will not have any value on days 1, 2, and 3 that are going to have significant value on day 25. And then they are going to diminish in value over time. For example, Belko Segovich talks about flashlights being extremely important early on, but about 6 months later, as the batteries ran down and supply of batteries and everything else, and people got more and more used to being in the dark without flashlights at night, then the batteries did not have that value, and the flashlights didn't have value. So the flashlights kind of had value from about day 7 until around 6 month period, and then from that point on, they became a nice to have instead of a need to have. So different things have different values at different points in the timeline. Okay, so day 2 and 3. There's a run on everything at the stores. Those that are open will only accept cash or barter since debit card readers are not functioning. I'm not so sure about barter. I'm not sure what they would be bartering for because the teller is not an agent. Anybody who is working as an agent of the company probably will not be authorized to accept something as barter for something. Now, you might be able to barter outside of the store with things that people bring out, but I'm not so sure barter is going to be anything valid inside the store. There won't be any resupply trucks coming. Canning facilities, distribution centers, interstate trucking all rely on the electric grid to function. There will be very long lines at the few gas stations that have emergency backup power. And so after about day 3, then anything that's left in the refrigerator is going to be spoiled and you probably don't want to eat it. At this point, you're going to start looking at your frozen stuff and you're going to try to prepare it. So you're going to go from refrigerated to frozen, and then from there on to different things. Days 4 through 6, law and order begin to break down. Without communications and functioning electronic equipment, many emergency responders just stay home to protect their families. So the vast majority of police, firefighters, all those kinds of people are probably going to be taking care of their families more so than showing up to work. Especially if they don't have any transportation to get to and from work, or can't respond because they don't have transportation once they're at work. So, those are some of the things you have to take into consideration there. And at this point, you're probably going to have some people panicking and going out and trying to take from other people. This is a point where you need to make sure that you are well defended, that you've planned that out, and you're capable of taking care of yourself. Now, at this point, we have to understand there's also going to be differences in how things are happening between urban centers, suburban centers, and rural centers. Okay, so as things are happening here, probably the worst is going to be in the urban centers. I would hate to be in a high rise in Manhattan. That's going to be terrible. Here in the suburban areas, we've got families that are kind of coalescing together. And we'll probably get together and kind of work together. Rural areas, you're kind of all by yourself and you have this open space around you to try to protect you. So each one has their own significant advantages and disadvantages as we go into this EMP, CME scenario. So law and order is going to break down. Many of the cities evacuate to the suburbs. They'll be on foot, overwhelming the already limited resources there. Emergency backup generators, diesel generators, liquid propane generators, liquid natural gas generators, like the ones that they have that automatically come on when Generac, when your house electricity falls. Those will probably be running out of fuel by the end of day 6. So most homes won't have any kind of electricity. Days 7 through 10, emergency backup diesel generators will run out of fuel. Most water and wastewater facilities. So you aren't going to have any fresh water being pumped in. You're not going to have the ability to flush anymore. Radio and TV stations, hospitals, food processing plants, if they weren't damaged or destroyed on day 1, will be out of power now. There will be no tanker trucks coming to refuel. Hospitals will be required to evacuate their patients. By now, there are a few doctors, nurses, and hospital staff or remaining because the majority have gone home to protect themselves and their families. Many patients requiring constant care will have either died or are in the moribund, which is an active state of dying. Without firefighters and water pressure, a number of fires that started from a variety of causes, from blown high voltage transformers and electrical equipment on day one, from nature, from human error, or from arson, burn out of control until there's nothing left to burn. As a result, entire city blocks and many homes are now in ashes. This is probably one of my greatest fears. When I take a look at what's going to happen, the two biggest fears I have are, number one, sanitation. If we take a look at what happened in New Orleans during Katrina and the sewage backup that happened at the Superdome, and the diseases that ran rampant there because of that. So number one is going to be just disease as a result of lack of containment of sewage. And then number two is going to be rampant fires. And those two things just scare the living daylights out of me, because we won't have any way to mitigate either one of those two from having devastating effects on our population. And I think that's basically what we're talking about here. Is we're kind of giving an outline. There's nothing specific about it, but it kind of gives you a general idea of how things are going to degrade over time and how you need to prepare for those. So when we start talking about days 7 through 10, days 7 through 14, my plan is I'm going to be inside the house, and I'm going to be avoiding things that cook, that put off odors. There's I'm going to be looking at things where I'm just going to be either cooking directly out of, warming up, boil and bag type of a scenario, or things where I can just boil some water and then add that to a meal. Also, some MREs might be good at this point in time. So, Mountain House products or nutrient survival products, where you just boil some water, pour it in, let it seep, and then it cooks itself as it reconstitutes. That's going to be ideal, because you don't want people to know that you're cooking or eating. You want to maintain as low a profile as possible there up until probably the end of the second week. Let me put some glasses on here. Okay. In the same manner, hundreds of wildfires burn out of control throughout the U.S. until they eventually burn themselves out. Without water pressure, there's no clean, safe drinking water available. So make sure you have plans for that. Make sure you have plenty of water stored. Make sure that you have the capability to process water. What I have been doing, because they're so expensive, I get 2 Berkey black filters every 6 months. And that's 6,000 gallons of water that'll purify. But then again, I put that from Amazon. I put that on that payment plan where I'm paying like $20 a month for that. Then when they're paid off, and there's no interest charge or anything else, then we're paid off after 6 months, and I get another 2 filters. So I've been doing that for a couple of years. I probably have, I want to say I probably have 4 or 5 boxes of 2 filters. So about 6,000 gallons each. So let's say I have 5 at 6,000 gallons. That's 30,000 gallons. Now, in order to prolong that, try to make that last a little bit longer, I do a multi-stage separation or purification of water. So my first stage is I've got the water catchment system here. So it's got all the stuff off the shingles and everything else, and bird poop from the roof. So that's going to go. That goes into my 500-gallon holding tank. From there, I'm going to put that into a dirty container, what I call dirty water container. I'm going to filter that through a coffee filter into a semi-clean water filter. That water I am then going to boil to try to get rid of any live pathogens. And then once I've boiled the water, then I'm going to put it through a filtration system like the Berkey or Survivor Filter Pro or something like that. So it's going to be a multi-stage where I'm removing first the very large objects, then I kill the microbial products, and then I'm going to go through the 0.01 micron filters. So that's kind of my plans there. And so, how are you going to separate out your dirty water? How are you going to purify it? How are you going to store your clean water? Yeah, I'm sorry, Utah Mike. I don't know what's going on this evening. Probably I just need to restart my computer. Every once in a while it has these issues. Sorry for the fuzziness this evening. I apologize for that. But we'll try to muddle through this. It's not important that you see me anyway, especially as bad as I feel, continue to feel. But recovering from the cough, the China cough. So, okay, days 11 through 15, without law enforcement, the hungry and desperate will start breaking into their neighbor's home for food and supplies. Armed groups you're going to see the beginning to amass of armed groups and armed gangs roaming the streets, preying on the weak and defenseless. Good people, if unprepared, will turn into scavengers and start looking for stuff that others might have that they could use. And they may, I can imagine if I was a parent and I had a 5-year-old who was starving, there's probably nothing I wouldn't do to try to feed that 5-year-old, or even younger. But so one of the things you've got to do is, how are you going to get a group of people together to defend against these roaming gangs and brigands and everything else? How are you going to protect yourselves? Remember, you've got to sleep sometime, and you've got to protect against fires. You got to protect against all kinds of stuff. So you're not going to be able to do it alone. I think anybody who thinks that they're going to be able to do this by themselves or with only their family is going to be sorely disappointed, because there's so much that has to go take place. Defense, water collection, water purification, collecting firewood, and other means of cooking. Eventually your charcoal is going to run out. The fuel that you've stored to cook, propane or anything else, is going to run out. It takes about 6 months to cure wood before it's safe to use in a fireplace or for cooking purposes. So, you're exposed while you're out doing that. Same thing. If you think you're going to forage or farm or hunt or fish for food after an EMP or CME, remember that you're totally exposed while you're out there doing that. And so while you're out there doing that, who's defending your castle? So it's going to take more than just you. That's for sure. So we've got to make sure we have everything protected there. So let me see. Without wastewater processing, the situation quickly becomes disgusting and dangerous as pressurized sewage pours from toilets and sinks at the lowest elevations in the system. I'm very lucky I'm up on top of a hill. This makes millions of homes and apartments uninhabitable due to both the health risks and the high levels of methane. I think I told you about Teufelsberg, which translates to Devil's Mountain in Berlin. Fuel Station Berlin sat on top of Teufelsberg, and it's 185 meters high, which is 185 yards in elevation, but it's basically all the rubble, to include the bodies from Berlin after World War II, at the end of World War II. And so they have these things tapped into it because the bodies are decaying and produce methane. And so for a long time, they were using that methane to run a power plant to provide electricity for the city of Berlin. So decomposing bodies provided the gas that powered the electricity system for Berlin for quite a while after the end of World War II. That's a great idea, Triple G, and I would recommend get yourself and break them in. If you're going to have some hiking boots or anything like that, make sure you get them broken in. And I would say keep a pair of walking shoes or boots in your vehicle at all times, because you just don't know when this might hit. So having those good walking boots or walking shoes or whatever in your vehicle so you can change out of your dress shoes into those is going to be very, very important. Hello, Devil Dog Prepper. Welcome. Let me see. Pat Butler says it's been a month since she first got sick and she's much better now. Still have occasional increased mucus, no temp, no longer have sore throat, but still no energy. Yeah, and Helen and I were talking about that today because she tested positive the day after I did. We don't know. Probably I infected her, but and we still have no taste, which is kind of weird as well. So yeah, we're still coughing up a lot of congestion, and feels like we should be running a temperature, although we're not. Although my pulse ox has been very good. It's been in the mid 90s, which for me is very good. Let me see here. Fiaxtra says we can try to protect our alternative communications, but there isn't any real world data. We might lose the things we try to protect, and we might not be able to contact our mag if they are neighbors. So that's one of the reasons I recommend. John Jacob Schmidt has his book was the Partisan Operator Journal, Volume 1. Get it, read it. He has AMRON, AMRRON, the American Redoubt Radio Operators Network. And so he's got a group of ham, GMRS, FRS, CB radio operators nationwide. AMRRON.com is the website. And so he's encouraging everybody to get on channel 3 if anything happens, whether it's CB, GMRS, or FRS. And then there's certain frequencies on ham that he recommends that on the 30 meter band, 20 meter and 30 meter bands that he recommends that people communicate on. So there is a fixed system of communications that's going to be available, but that means you have to keep your radios in Faraday bags, and you have to have a power source for them as well. So, I know that when we have a ham fest day, we go out, we will go through cases of AAA and AA batteries like you would not believe. Just the amount of batteries that it takes to maintain a radio station is just unbelievable. Oh wow, Triple G, I'm so sorry. This is a butt kicker, I'll tell you. It's not pleasant whatsoever. Okay, so we're up to days 11 through 15, going towards the end of the second week. Without law enforcement, the hungry and desperate masses break into their neighbor's home for food and supplies. Armed groups and gangs roam the streets. Even good people, if unprepared and forced to survive, do whatever it takes to feed their children, keep their loved ones alive. Many of the stateside military and National Guard abandon their posts and go home to protect their own families from the looters. Stateside military bases are 99% reliant on civilian power grid and are just as dark as everywhere else. National Guard armories around the nation have been or will soon be looted by well-armed gangs intent on stealing loosely protected military vehicles if they'll run, weapons, supplies, hardware, etc. The thin layer of civilized society is slipping away in the fight for survival. So, yeah, we're going to see a lot more clashes. These are going to be less than organized. They're going to be spontaneous at the outset. So if you have a well-planned, organized defensive group, you're going to be far, far ahead of most of these gangs. We're just going to be, spontaneous groups that are out looking for better weapons and stuff like that. Days 16 through 30. So now we're talking about weeks 3 and 4. By the end of day 7, the NRC, Nuclear Regulatory Commission, mandated diesel fuel supply for backup emergency diesel generators at most nuclear power plants will run dry. For backup generators and reactor cooling pumps damaged or destroyed on day 1, there are 2 primary central locations in the U.S. with spares that would need to be transported many miles on clogged highways to the destinations. Over the next few days to weeks, many of the 54 commercially operated nuclear power plants with 93 nuclear reactors in 28 states will experience disasters similar to Fukushima. I'm not sure if it's that dire, but this guy did an awful lot of research, and I have a feeling that they will be able to shut the reactors down and, of course, get the ferrite rods in there and stop the nuclear reactions. I'm not as afraid of the actual nuclear reactor as I am of the cooling ponds where the spent fuel is kept. And so, if there's not a constant flow of water in those cooling ponds, that's going to be the area that I would be more concerned about than I would be the actual nuclear reactors. Adding to the social breakdown, many of the 2 million adults in federal and state prisons, county jails across the U.S. will be either let free or escape due to lack of power, resources, and personnel to contain them. So we're going to see a lot of the less than nice people released from the jails, prisons, etc., and they'll be roaming the streets looking for things, and you'll be a target for them as well. You're going to see an awful lot of outbreaks of dysentery, cholera, and typhoid brought on by drinking unpurified water and living in unsanitary conditions as they begin to spread throughout the country. These and other treatable third world diseases, along with dehydration, starvation, murder, will claim the lives of tens of millions of Americans. There are no hospitals to go to. There are no medications available. Even minor injuries and infections become life-threatening. In most parts of the country, there is no one coming to help. And this is just going to be the first 30 days. So I think if you can survive the first 30 days, you can pretty much survive everything. So that's basically the end of the introduction of the timeline. So from about day 7 until maybe day 14, day 21, you're going to want to remain indoors. You're going to want to be cooking with hot water added to things like Mountain House or nutrient survival type foods, where you just add hot water to the meal, let it seep, and then you have a hot meal. Remember that most of the canned goods are already cooked, or they're cooked inside the canned good. So you can open a can of chili, you can open a can of vegetables, you can open a can of fruit and eat all of that safely. You don't have to worry about cooking it. You can, so that should be pretty much available to you. And then after about day 30, then you can start doing the normal cooking outdoors and things like that. I think the vast majority of people will have died off probably within the first 30 days. Listening Grandma asks, will hand crank radios be affected? Possibly. There are different schools of thought on EMP, CME, and whether or not even vehicles will run. I like, oh gosh, now I'm going to forget his name. He's called the EMP doctor, but he is the head of EMP for NASA. So he designs all the electronic equipment, protection for our space shuttles and things like that. Dr. Bradley. And he's written some science fiction books as well, some post-apocalyptic type books as well. He thinks that there may be a lot of vehicles that survive, that a lot of electronic equipment will survive, that the CME, EMP is going to be more attracted to long wire transmissions. So we'll be talking about that a little bit more next time we get together. The 3 different waves of an EMP or a CME pulse. That first wave that has all of that power behind it is primarily going to be attracted towards, the wires, the transmission wires and things like that. So as it hits that and it goes downstream, then it's going to, anything that's plugged into that is going to be affected by that. So if you have a good fuse box at the beginning of your house and the fuse box blows before that electrical pulse gets to anything that's plugged in on the inside of your house, then the stuff on the inside of your house will be safe. But if it doesn't blow that fuse or jumps that fuse and then goes inside the house, then that, of course, is going to destroy anything that's plugged into it. That can also start an awful lot of fires. Yes. And that's, my group. So the first group I joined in preparedness, our comms guy is in Luling, Texas. And that's, if we take the 80-mile-an-hour toll road, it takes me an hour and a half to get down to his house from here at 80 miles an hour. Then there were a couple of us up here in in Williamson County. Then there were a couple in Travis County, and but there are probably about 12 of us in our group, but we were spread out over 6 counties. And, so what we acknowledged was and we were part of the Texas Preparedness Group. So this is one group inside Texas Preparedness, which is statewide. And so the Texas Preparedness basically taught us how to form cells, how to teach people, prioritize, come up with plans and everything else. And so that's what we were doing. And so I would more depend upon my neighbors right here in the immediate area than I would that MAG to which I was a member. We haven't met since the lockdown, since 2020. As a matter of fact, the last time we got together was February of 2020. We went to the, in Bell County, they have the Mother Earth News Expo every February. And so February of 2020 was the last time we got together. And that was basically under the statewide group, the Texas Preparedness Group. And so we were all there together. And Helen and I were just talking about that, well, gosh, the other day, wasn't it, Helen? Mm-hmm. We were talking about if it weren't for the fact that we got free admission because we provided some of the training and we provided some of the security for the for that event, we took a look at the cost of the tickets, and we probably would not purchase the tickets to go to that event if it weren't for the Texas Preparedness Group. 40 or 50. Helen's saying they were $40 or $50 a person to get in, and it was a 3-day event. Oh wow, let me write that down. Homemade. So they're saying that there's a site here, Helen. Homemade Wanderlust. Lost her sense of taste. And she has some ideas on how to recover your taste from this terrible, terrible thing that we have going on here. Hello, Storms, Radios, and Cats. Welcome. My opinion on having seeds to grow marijuana for smokers and pain control. I've never done it. I've been exposed to it, but I've never done it. You know, I mean, I was exposed to some people who were actively smoking, gosh, back in probably 76. And I've just never been attracted to it. So I'm probably the wrong guy to ask. I do have some CBD gummies that help me sleep a little bit. And so, you know, I'm familiar with that. I just started that probably maybe 6 months, a year ago. But I have, you know, being addicted to cigarettes was bad enough. I dated a girl one time who was an alcoholic, and you know, that convinced me to stay away from alcohol. I drink, but not to the extent that a lot of people do, to where they have to have a drink every day or anything like that. She scared me away from alcohol. So I'm afraid of anything that I might enjoy too much or become dependent upon. So there are people out there who probably value that and would probably pay an awful lot for it. And you know, I think that's a decision you're going to have to make for yourself. I'm not going to be judgmental and say, no, you shouldn't, or yes, you should, or anything else. I'm going to say that's something that's going to be a case-by-case basis. And as for me, I probably, number one, if I grew it and started selling it, then of course that's going to attract the seedy type of people, not necessarily you, but there are seedy characters, you know, who want to control distribution and production and everything else. Those kind of seedy characters are ones I'm talking about. You know, so I'm not so sure I want to attract any attention to myself. I want to stay as much a gray person as possible. So Phioxerus says, it has a long growing season with no nutritional value, unsavory contacts. I would not want to be known as a guy with weed for sale. Yeah, I don't either. So so Phioxerus is agreeing with Dr. Bradley's interpretation of EMP-CME. And he has he has a site here on YouTube, and I think it's EMP Doctor. But anyhow, he is a guy. He's my go-to guy on EMP-CME. I agree with you. I think there's going to be homeopathic medicine is going to be critical and essential in a post-apocalyptic world. I would really like to get somebody who really knows herbalism and like tinctures and essential oils and things like that, and other herbal medicines and cures. I would love to have a person come give a class and talk to us about that here on this channel, because I agree. I think we're going to be dependent upon that. I don't know if I told you or not, but when I did the counterterrorist stuff for the Seoul Olympics in 1988, of course, when you're an MI officer going over to Korea in 1988, the government paid to ship your golf clubs because it was almost expected that you play golf with your Korean counterpart. And so I was playing golf with the commanding general of the Korean CIA. And he picked me up at the hotel. They had marble slab stairs, and it had rained. And I slipped and fell down the stairs and broke my ankle. I played 9 holes of golf with him on a broken ankle, using my putter as a crutch. And he finally said, "Mr. Engel, I think I need to send you to my personal doctor." And so he sent me to his acupuncturist. And this was back in 1988 when AIDS was not as known as what we know now. And of course, we were very afraid of, needles and anything that might be stuck into you. So he sent me to his acupuncturist, and the acupuncturist, I became convinced. He put the needles in my foot. Within 15 minutes, the swelling was gone, the pain was gone, and he told me it was broken. I needed to go to Yongsan, which was the military hospital in Seoul, and have it set and put in a cast by a Western doctor. Let me tell you, it convinced me homeopathic medicine is real, and it has it is an extremely valuable thing to have, whether that be acupuncture, or whether it be reflexology, herbal medicines, whatever. I am convinced. After that, I am totally convinced that it is a very viable method of treatment. It's my apologies, Storms, Radios, and Cats. I don't know what's going on. It is very hazy. I'm seeing myself here very hazy. I've tried a couple things to try to clear it up, but it's just not doing anything. I don't want to shut down and restart for fear of not being able to rejoin the live. So I'm just going to kind of muddle through that here. Oh, thank you. Let me get that. Let me see if I can't get that copy pasted. No, I can't copy paste that. Can I? I will have to do that after. I have to come back and check that. But thank you very much, Little Lone Prepper. I greatly appreciate that. Let me see here. Okay. My county and the neighboring county is on the verge of a water shortage. We have not had enough rain in Central Kentucky to maintain the lake water levels where we get our water. I think that there's water issues throughout the United States. We are in severe drought here. Of course, right now it's storming. I was telling Helen, I wish that the rain were about 100 miles north of here so we could fill up the inland lakes, the highland lakes is what we call them, a series of 5 dams and lakes along the Colorado River. Down here at this elevation, it doesn't fill up those reservoirs that we need filled up, but it does help the people south of us. But we are in dire need of water here, and El Paso is even worse, and they're sucking the Rio Grande dry in El Paso. Let me see. Welcome, Sandy. Sorry for the video. It's a little bit off tonight, a little bit hazy. I'm going to blame it on the weather. How's that? We have hazy conditions outside. Sumi, welcome. Okay, sleep and rehydration. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of sleeping. As a matter of fact, I set my the reason I didn't restart the computer is because I set my alarm clock for half an hour, and then I hit the snooze button. So I took an hour nap up until around 7:30 before coming on this live. Um, I have a phenomenal acupuncturist. Because of my broken back from the military, I get some fantastic pain management. So they're paying for an acupuncturist once a month and a chiropractor twice a month. So both of those are kind of homeopathic. As a matter of fact, my chiropractor appointment is day after tomorrow. So looking forward to that. That always provides some relief for my back. Oh, wow. Well, that's great. I'm looking forward to that. We have a place called, what's the name of it? We have a deli that's really phenomenal, and Helen and I both like it. And so the first day that after we did our medication, we ordered something online and went through the drive-through to pick it up. But I got a Texas spud, a Texas potato, baked potato with barbecue and everything, and trimmings, all the trimmings and everything else. And so that was great. It wasn't quite the taste that I expected, but it provides some fantastic food. Let me see. So what did you buy on the Lost Book of Herbal Remedies? Okay, I'll have to check that out. Thank you. Okay, so if we have a CME EMP, by the way, we are expected to have X-class flares hitting the Earth starting later on this evening and going through the 4th. So that's going to be today, the rest of today, tomorrow, and the 4th. We're expecting some X-class flares to hit the Earth. There is some thought, and I don't know if any of you watch Suspicious Observer. I watch him every morning, and he talks about the solar flares and everything else. He and Mary Greeley News both have shown papers that are tying the what do you call it? The magnetic grids around the Earth and the possibility of a polar exchange or movement of the polar fields. And then, of course, the high resonance activity from the sun could be causing some of the disruptions that are causing some of the anomalous earthquakes that are going on around the world. And so it's really interesting how all that's going together. We could see more earthquake activity as a result of the stuff that's happening on the sun. I'm going to jot this down real quick. A Lost Book of Herbal Remedies. My apologies. I can't write and talk at the same time. I've lost my dexterity in doing things like that, but thank you. I appreciate you guys' recommendations and everything else. So that's pretty much where we are. Wanted to run through that 30-day timeline for you. Make sure you have plenty of, number one, in the winter, make sure you have a way of heating. Make sure you have a way of communicating. And I would say keep those in a Faraday bag if possible. So I have a GMRS, an FRS, and a CB radio. All of those are in a Faraday bag. I have a Baofeng UV5R and Baofeng UV5G, which is the GMRS. And then I have a Yaesu YE6. All of those are in my Faraday bag. I also have a scanner. I have a hand crank radio that's in that Faraday bag. The rest of it's outside the Faraday bag. Of course, I'm in the process of building a 20 meter, 30 millimeter HF single sideband HF radio station for ham. And, then I want to get in with the emergency radio relay system. So we'll see what happens there. I'm still studying. I can't believe I haven't done it yet, but I'm studying for my technicians in general class ham radio test so that I can get that done. You would think that a signals intelligence guy would be able to pass this without too much study, but yeah, I'm going to study anyway. Get that taken, see if we can't get a license. So that's pretty much where we are. Pay attention to what's going on in the Middle East. Of course, we've got the Houthis. We attacked their airport, and then the Houthis have got their panties are in a pinch. Evidently, the Israelis took out the number 2 guy from Hamas at a hotel in Beirut, Lebanon, which is an incursion into that country, and so they're vowing that they're going to get even with that. So I mean, things are kind of escalating as we talk. Of course, the Russians and the Ukrainians are going at it, and they're doing a tete-a-tete, drone strike, missile strike. Belgorod has been targeted a couple times, so has Kiev. So speaking of which, a little bit of pronunciation and Slavic for those of you who have not been exposed to the Slavic languages. So K-I-E-V is Kiev. The V is almost pronounced like an F. I-E diphthong is E, just like we say chief, thief, relieve, belief. That's the same thing, I-E in Kiev. It's that diphthong. Anytime you see a K all by itself, it's pronounced as a K. Anytime you see KH, that's a diphthong. And it represents it looks like an X in English. It looks like a backward C and a C that are joined, kind of a fancy scrolled X. That's chariton is what they call it in their phonetic language. And so that's ch. So when you see Kharkov, the KOV is Kov, of course. KH is Kharkov. So it's kind of a guttural, get some phlegm up as you're saying the KH. So Kharkov is, and then Khrushchev is the Nikita Khrushchev was the president during President Kennedy's time. So that's the KH diphthong as well. So IE is E, and then KH is Kh. So just a little bit of that there, but Belgorod, and Biel is short for Bieli, which is white, and Gorod is translates as city. So Belgorod means white city, and that's one of the largest cities in Russia, and it's been attacked recently by the Ukrainian forces with drones and long-range rockets. So a lot of stuff going on there. That's going to continue to expand. Poland and Finland are, of course, having problems with the Russians as well. Then you see a lot of stuff going on with the Baltic countries, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. So I was on Prepping with Sarge's channel a week ago Friday, and we were talking about our predictions for 2024. Here are my predictions for 2024, and I'll leave you with that. I think we may have celebrated the last Thanksgiving as a country that we will celebrate. There are too many things going on that convince me otherwise. Saudi Arabia today joined BRICS. So the petrodollar is no longer, as of today. It's going to be the petro yuan. The Chinese are going to be basically controlling all the petro currency. The U.S. is out as of today. So that's going to really affect our fiat currency. Today we went over, I think it's $35 trillion in debt, if you check the national debt clock. So there are 4 things that I said are critical that we see happening in 2024 that are dangerous, that could be terminal to the United States. So number 1, of course, we got the 2024 elections. We see states that claim to be protecting democracy by denying people the opportunity to vote for the person that they want. So because they're afraid that the people might want who they don't want, they're removing people from the ballot and claiming that that by destroying democracy, they can save democracy. So I have a feeling that, of course, with election year and everything, those contentions are going to continue to exacerbate, and we could see conflict between the two sides before the end of the year. I don't care who wins; the results of the election are going to be contested. So that's just one of those things you have to take into consideration. I have never seen race relations as poor since Obama as I have since I was in high school back in the late 60s. And I think that race relations right now in the United States are at a critical point, and that could explode at any time. I thought that we had moved past that back in the early 70s, mid 70s, and we were making progress. But I think all that got thrown out the window during the Obama administration. Just unbelievable. He had such a great opportunity to really unify the country, and he didn't do it. So that's another one of those issues that we see going on, especially with all the new stuff that's been released that was denied as far as a defense for the 4 police officers in Minnesota with the death that happened up there, George Floyd. So that's going to continue to fester as a wound in our society. Then, of course, we've got financial collapse that's imminent, and so that could be another portion of it. And then the fourth one is that when I was in college in the late 60s, early 70s, there were 2 Harvard professors, Cloward and Pivens, and what they said was that they wanted to create anarchy so that as a result of the anarchy, they could tell people for the need for a strong presence, basically a autocracy to come in and solve the problems of anarchy. So the way that they wanted to put anarchy into the United States was they were going to overwhelm our social justice system, our social welfare system, and basically bankrupt the U.S. Well, we see that happening now with the illegal alien invasion, especially on our southern border. We now have more illegal aliens in the United States than the total population of our 15 smallest states, population-wise. So that the number of illegal aliens exceeds the population of 15 states. Can you believe that? So when we take a look at the number of unaccompanied, military age, well-dressed, physiqued men, especially from China, Venezuela, Nicaragua, and other Arabic countries, there's at least 30,000 Chinese. So the opportunity for the 2 Chinese colonels and what they called unrestricted warfare and just the terrorist stuff that can go on inside our country and decapitate us from inside. Just unbelievable. So those 4 major issues I see all festering inside our country right now, and none of them are good. If only we could find somebody who would lead us to unification, that would lead us together to overcome our differences, so that we could reunify as a country under one common banner, leading in one direction. So I'm looking forward to that leader emerging, whoever that might be. So that's kind of where we are. So those are my predictions for 2024. I don't think we're going to see another Thanksgiving as a unified country. So with all that, let's go to the book. I would also like to invite you. In 2022, Father Mike Schmitz did the Bible in a year. Let's see, where did I put that? I dug it out of my library because I'm redoing it, and I would like to invite you to do it with me. But there it is. So we do the Bible in a year. So yesterday we did Genesis 1 and 2. Today we did Genesis 3 and 4. We also did Psalm 104 today. So, this is 3 books that we're doing. Each one has basically the history of what's going on at that time. We have a prayer that's leading us into deeper revelation about that biblical passage, and then dive deeper. Sometimes these are maps or explanations of people. Like tomorrow, we're going to be talking about Noah's Ark. So here's an artist's rendition of what the description of the ark is. Remember that they think that they have found Noah's Ark. They think they found Mount Ararat. So I would invite you. I did this 2 years ago. I'm redoing it. I started it yesterday morning. You're only 2 days behind. Each session, each class is only 20, 25 minutes to do the entire Bible in a year. Strongly recommend it. Bible in a year with Father Mike Schmitz. Now, for those of you who are Protestants, understand that we use the Bible that was canonized in 425 AD. So it still has a lot of the books that were taken out by Martin Luther and other people during the Protestant Revolution in the 1515s. So you will get the entire canonized Bible, not the Protestant version of this, minus some books of the Bible. But I would invite you to do that with me. Last year I did the Catechism in a year, and then that was really great. So I'm planning on alternating these two from now on, as long as I continue to live. So, turned 72 this year. Can you believe that? Golly, I've lasted that long. Unbelievable. Okay, number 7, verses 24, 25, 26. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord let his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. The Lord look upon you kindly and grant you peace. So remember that we're all in this together, so we can come out the other side together, because no person is an island. Please be kind, polite, and respectful to each other. And remember, we're going to come through this together, just you and me, okay? And we're going to have our own little group. We're going to be rebuilding this country, and we're going to be rebuilding it based on faith. We're going to be rebuilding it based on kindness, respect, and being polite with each other and taking care of each other. So thank you, everybody. Happy New Year. I'm so glad to see you here. Hopefully I'll get these video issues resolved by the time we get together next Thursday evening. So Thursday evening, I had to postpone from last Thursday. I wasn't able to do it, but this Thursday evening, we'll be doing Legion of Despair, which is volume 3 of the Borrowed World series by Franklin Horton. So I'll see you at 8 o'clock Thursday evening. Hopefully I'll have the video straightened out and a lot crisper. Happy New Year, everybody. Bye-bye.